Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Verses 6 and 7. Bhaktim muhuh pravahatam tvaime prasangaha Puyadananta mahatam amalashayanam Solbanamuru Vyasanam Bhavabdhim Neshe Bhavadguna Kathamrutamana. Seventh, Tena smarantya priyamishamartyam ye chan vadasuta suhrid grihavittadaraha ye tvabjana bhavadiya padara vinda saugandhya lubdha hrudayeshu krita prasangaha. So what is Dhruva Maharishi saying? So we covered Om Namo Bhaga. If you recall, we said all these 12 verses of Dhruva Stuti correspond to the 12 aksharas, Dvadasa akshara of the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra. So we covered the first 6 or first 5. Om Namo Bhaga. So now he is trying to go slightly deeper into trying to explain how we should approach Bhagavan. So in the first few, we saw he is again setting the context with Om. Okay, so let me just, it's good to kind of bring the context and the sequence into our minds. So first one with Om, he was telling Bhagavan entered into me as sound. He came into me, Yontaf Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam. So he came in as sound and awakened my senses. And then I saw that everything that I am perceiving, once he came and awakened my senses, my eyes opened up. I could see the illusion of things that are there. What I'm seeing is truly not the way it is. Right? He suddenly got, that's the process of enlightenment, where he suddenly now seeing things with a different eye, a different sense of perception. That was na. Then moksha, which means he says in the third one, he says, now I feel I am liberated, I'm released from this illusion. This Maya that has been created by Bhagavan, this illusion that's been created by Bhagavan, is purely in the way I perceive. Of course, it is he who has created it, but then it requires a different eye to see Bhagavan in his true glory. Which is why even Arjuna and Sanjaya were given Divya Drishti. To be able to see what is really, you need a different eye. I remember there used to be this, when we were young, Ananda Vigadan used to have this particular page which would have an image in 3 dimension. I don't know how many of you will remember this. This is many years ago. And that used to be one page. And we wouldn't read Ananda Vikadan because we are not very, of course, I was not very comfortable reading Tamil end to end. But there are some parts, like there was a person called Mr. X, and there was a joke on Mr. X. So I'll try to read that. And then there is this one page which used to have some kind of a 3D image. But when you look at the page, it will look all fuzzy. So you had to hold the Ananda Vigadan, that magazine, in a particular way for you to see that 3D image that appears through it. So whenever this used to be a fortnightly, if I'm not wrong, weekly or a weekly, probably weekly magazine. And my brother and I, we used to spend time to actually, that was the page that interested us, right? So, and then you have to find out, and somewhere the answer is written. What is that image? What is the 3D image? But the exercise is so beautiful because when you're looking at it at first, it looks all messy. The same thing with our life, right? Right now, when you see your life, it seems all messy. It seems all out of control. It seems all, I don't know where it is going. I don't know what is happening. Seems all messy. But then all it takes is to settle within yourself and try to keep looking. And then that image emerges. Because for sure, Bhagavan is present in this world. Bhagavan is present in this creation. Supreme consciousness is present within this creation. It needs to emerge out in our perception. So when you do that, once you see that, see that the beauty again, I remember, once we have seen that 3D image, then I keep the book aside and then I pick up the book, go to that page, that 3D image will appear like that. Because I've seen it once. The next time I don't have to struggle. So it's a beautiful experience, and that is what it is. The whole spiritual journey is like that, is about seeing through all of this, what we call a scrap. But now go back to that image. Now, can that image be any better for you to be able to see that? No, that is the way the image will be. Although we see there's a scrap, this is required for us to see beyond this also. Only through this will you be able to see the truth and through the reality, because that is how we are constituted. But the important thing is, it is our effort that is making us see. So in moksha, in mo, om namo, he's saying, now I'm released and liberated from this illusion. Then bha, he talks about how we are not motivated by the bodily pleasures that we are seeking for, and we move towards bhakti, right? Because love and devotion has to arise in our heart. And he says, through that bhakti alone, liberation is possible. Because after Dhruva has had this experience, now he's sharing it with us. He's guiding us. So bha is to approach Bhagavan with devotion and bhakti, with surrender. And ga, next one, bhaga, we saw, is to move towards what direction? Towards Bhagavan. So have bhakti. Bhakti is important, but towards what? Towards Bhagavan. Ga is to gachati, to go. So you go towards, which means it's important where you establish your devotion. If you establish your devotion in your work, you will get the outcome. You establish your devotion in your children, that is the outcome you'll get. You establish your devotion in your husband, this is what you will get. You establish your devotion in your parents, this is the outcome. These are all measured outcomes, because you're establishing devotion in limited things. But you establish devotion in the divine, in Bhagavan, in the Supreme, then the outcome is also infinite, which means you will lose the sense of lack. If you establish devotion in 1, 2, 3 things, the outcome will also be 1, 2, 3. It will be limited and you'll experience lack. But if you establish devotion in that which is not numbered, it is infinite, it is not limited, then what happens here is also your sense of experience is also without any lack. That's the outcome. So ga. Then now he's saying va, bhagava. Va is bhaktim muhu. So this is the 6th verse. Bhaktim muhu pravahatam tvai me prasangaha. May this bhakti flow again and again, uninterrupted, towards you. Pravahatam tvai me prasangaha. May it flow towards you by means of this prasangaha, by means of this attachment to you, association to you. Bhaktim muhu pravahatam tvai me prasangaha bhuyadananta mahatam amalashayanam. May this, so then he says, attachment with whom? Bhuyat ananta mahatam amalashayanam. This attachment with great souls or satsanga. So how does devotion continue to flow? Prasangaha. by attachment to satsanga, by attachment to those Mahatmas who are themselves flowing with devotion. Bhuyat Ananta Mahatam, infinite Mahatam, great souls, Amala Shayanam, of pure heart. Those who are those great souls of pure heart, may I be associated with them so that this devotion for you flows. So in this verse, he is trying to guide us to tell how can you carry this devotion in your heart. Because what is important is not the flickering experience that we get, not the momentary experience that we get. Today, and I'm sitting and I'm doing Nama Sankirtanam, I'm feeling elated. Right? Then I go into the kitchen and then I turn my mixie, it is not working, I get irritated. Right? It should not be such a dramatic change of course in our experience. When I'm feeling so beautiful and blessed, then why is the next thing bothering me? Why can't I carry that blessedness with me? Why can't I carry that joy with me? Because we think if God or Bhagavan or Krishna, Narayana, Devi, whoever is there in my life, we think that my life, everything is, all the material things gets resolved. We think that I will never have short circuit in my house. I should never have uh, I should never have plumbing problems. That's not the way it works. You will have every problem in your life. That is not the issue. The problem is we correlate these two. Now, I've prayed so much to you, and then I come and I'm wanting to do my daily transactions, and then I try to match the two to say that suddenly now I feel that these things should have been resolved because I've done puja and sankirtanam to you. That is not the way it works. Whatever is happening to you is your prarabdha. You need to face it. Because the karma that you have done is not in this 30, 40, 50, 70 years of life. It is from last several lifetimes that has been created and it has been accumulated. And so this needs to get cleared off. This clearing off will happen in so many different ways. Devotion that we carry within us should be despite the conditions on the outside. This is very important to understand. Devotion is not subject to the conditions on the outside. Our devotion is subject to the conditions. ஏசி நல்லா இருந்ததுன்னா உட்காந்து தியானம் பண்ணுவேன். Only if my seating is proper will I sit and do Nama Sankirtanam. Only if the conditions are all right, I'll come and do puja. These, I'm talking for the heart that is wanting to carry devotion. Then you should not have the subjective, or you should not have conditions for your devotion to prosper. For devotion to prosper, we have to do our regular sadhana, our regular kainkaryam that we do without any condition that may be an obstacle on the outside. The obstacle should not be an obstacle to the way I am wanting to develop this devotion within me. We will have obstacles on the outside. So, which is why we try to do all these prayers at the start to remove obstacles. We invoke Ganesha to remove obstacles. We say Shanti, Shanti, Shanti to remove obstacles. All of these things we are doing so that we say that even to do prayer to you, Bhagavan, there are obstacles. So may those obstacles go away. If I want to do bhajan to you, I want to do sankirtanam to you, I want to do archana to you, I want to do kainkaryam. There are obstacles, so may those obstacles go away so that I may do this. Why? So that devotion may build within me. So this is Vahati. The Va is that what he talks about here in this particular verse is may we carry this devotion. Having a glimpse of this devotion is not sufficient. Yenan jasolba manamuru Yenan jasolba namuru Vyasanam bhavabdim Neshye bhavad guna kathamrtapana mattaha. So he says, let me be intoxicated by the nectar, pana mattaha. And he says what? Yena anjasa, effortlessly, ulbanam, uruvyasanam, bhavabdhim. So through this devotion that I carry within me, by being in satsanga, by being in association with people who are filled with devotion, I will be able to cross over this ocean of suffering that I'm experiencing by listening to Bhava Guna Katha, by listening to your divine qualities, or by drinking of those divine qualities of yours. By drinking means what? He's saying Panamattaha. Drinking the divine nectar means not through your mouth, but through the ears. Katha Amritam. It says Katha Amritam, the divine nectar of your glorious deeds, your glorious stories, scriptures. When we say Katha, it doesn't just mean Bhagavata Katha. Anything that you pick up, spiritual, any text that is pointing you to the spiritual, the supreme consciousness, the supreme divine, is Katha. It is Bhagavata Katha. And so he says, listen to that continuously and revel in it. Keep your mind in it so that when you listen to it, it feels like you're drinking of that. See, what is the advantage of what is this process of consuming, drinking? What does it do? It quenches your thirst and your hunger. Same thing. When you're drinking through your ears, he says, when you're drinking Bhagavan Nama, Bhagavad Gunaha, stories, and also listening to satsanga, listening to discourses, by drinking through your ears, it should quench the thirst which is within you. What thirst? The thirst that I am dry, I don't have enough. And the hunger. What is the hunger? I want more. Thirst and hunger, kshut pipasa. Kshut pipasa is the word that is used. Kshut means hunger. Pipasa is thirst. So what are we thirsty and hungry for? Thirsty means when you're going dry, when you're feeling the lack. அப்படியே ட்ரையா இருக்கு life. There's no juice. And then hunger for what? Hunger for more. I want name, I want recognition, I want peace. Even you're hungry for peace. So we are either thirsty or hungry for something. So he says, by listening to these, by having satsanga, constantly being able to carry this devotion, you'll be able to cross bhavabdhim, this ocean of suffering. Suffering is what? Essentially this. Suffering is, see, suppose right now, if you're thirsty, I give you something very nice to drink, your thirst is gone. Aren't you satisfied? For the moment, you're satisfied. Likewise, when you're hungry, I give you something to eat. For that time, you're satisfied. What happens What is satisfaction? Satisfaction is I no longer have that desire for something, but for that moment. If you're thirsty and you drink, you can't drink 5 liters of water when you're thirsty. Even if I give you 5 liters, you're thirsty, you'll probably drink 500 ml, 600 ml, at the most 1 liter. எவ்வளோ தாகமா இருந்தாலும், how much ever thirsty you have been, suppose you have not seen water for 3 days, can you suddenly drink 5 liters of water? You can't. Your thirst will get quenched by 1 liter, 600 ml to 1 liter of water. What happens there is that much amount of water is sufficient to quench that thirst. Likewise for food, like Avayar says, Pada pona vaire, she says, your stomach cannot eat 3 meals or 2 meals, and at the same time it can't starve for 1 meal. Suppose I'm starving now, I say, okay, let me, then next time I get food, can I say that let me eat for the next 3 meals now? I can't. At the same time, if I starve this meal, your stomach is asking for food. So every meal, your stomach will ask food. And if I want to store and want to keep for 3, 4 meals, it will not store. Every time you have to keep attending to it. So that is the master now. Number odalla in our bodies, those have become our masters now. We are their slaves. We are attending to them continuously. So knowing that we are under these limitations, what we do, we want to break away from these limitations. So that is the way the body is. So it's okay. Let the body operate that way. I become the master. How I know stomach is going to make noise now? I'll give it something. Why would I know my throat is going to get thirsty? I'm going to give it some water. Shut up. So I do what is required to take care of that. But for what? So that I can develop this sense of completion within me. My lack should only be to the level of the body, because it's a natural lack. It is not an eternal lack. It is way the body is constituted. When the sun comes out, you will become dry. This is the natural process of things. So to that extent, you need to attend to it. But this cannot become your primary objective of life, because it will never end. Tell me a point, you will never get thirsty. Tell me a point, you will never get hungry. It will never happen. It will continue to happen. You have to continue to attend to it. So to that extent, attend to it whatever is required. But the greater attention is required to quench your thirst and hunger that feels much more intense within you. Your life feels dry. That hunger that I need to fill myself, I don't have. This we need to quench. And there is a way. What all Mahatmas say, which is why he is saying associate yourself with Mahatmas. Why? Because Mahatmas are living examples to show this can be quenched. This can be satisfied. This hunger that you're carrying, I want to do this, I want to do this, inga peru venu, anga peru venu, idu venu, I want recognition, I want to be known, I want. This hunger can be quenched, can be satisfied. Like that, if there is thirst, I'm saying, my life is so dry, there's nothing happening, I'm feeling so exhausted and drained. This thirst can be quenched. And who shows this by example are the Mahatmas. So, which is why he says, associate yourself with Mahatmas, prasangaha, so that this bhavabdhim, this ocean of suffering that you're experiencing right now, it can be crossed over. By how? Bhaktim muhuf pravahatam. Let this bhakti be carried within you. Carry this bhakti inside you and carry it as a pravaha. Pravaha means a continuous flow of water is called pravaha. Pravahana in artham continuous flow of water. Right? It's not like you open little bit, there is some amount of water coming and then goes away, dries, and then you have to shake the tap. Constipated water illa. Pravaha is continuously flowing. Saundarya Lahari. Shivananda Lahari. That Lahari needs to happen. That Lahari is Pravaha. And that Pravaha can be experienced right here, right now. You don't need anybody else. This is important to understand. You don't need anybody else. You don't need an Acharya. You don't need a Bhagavan also. You don't need Bhagavan's permission to love Bhagavan. You don't need his permission. You can love him one-sided love. Panninde irukkalame. Bhagavan, I don't know if Bhagavan loves me. Why care? You love him. Of course, he will respond. And that is why Mahatmas are there to show that example. He will respond. He is responding, he will respond. So you continue to have that engagement going, and you don't even need anybody else's permission, anybody else's indulgence in it. It is a very private affair. So you carry this. So what, in this particular verse, he says, Bhaktim muhuh pravahatam tvaime prasangaha. To be able to have this flow, continuous flow of bhakti towards you. Prasangaha bhuyad ananta mahatam amalashayanam. I would want to have this prasangaha, this sangha with such great Mahatmas whose hearts are pure. Yenanja solbanam uru vyasanam bhavabdhim. By that I will be able to cross over this ocean of suffering. Neshe bhavad gunakatha amritapanamattaha. And then I listen to how do I do that? By having satsanga and also listening to Kathamrita. Continuously listening to Bhagavad Purana, Bhagavatam, Devi Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Upanishads, listening to the Mahavakyas. All this we are doing satsanga, Saturday morning satsanga, is essentially getting introduction to these beautiful texts that are available. We can pick up any text on a particular day, and today you say that I'm going to go through this text mentally, I'm going to look at it. So that you create that association. Today, unfortunately, we cannot have Mahatma Satsanga all the time. All these great souls, they'll not come and sit in our house to keep showing us how to live, what to do. We see them once in a while here, there we go, we meet, get their blessings, grace. But then you have to continue living your life with your own self, with your own families, with your own husband, wife, children, mother, father, whatever. So you have to find texts, scriptures are a beautiful way to create that association, to create that satsanga. In fact, the greatest satsanga is to create with the scriptural books and texts that you have. Carry it wherever. Take out. Mahatma Gandhi was in the jail for many, many times. He would always carry his Bhagavad Gita with him. He's read the Bhagavad Gita. It is not, these scriptural books are not meant to say that, okay, I have read it. It is never in the past. It is always in the present, because it will always give you new meaning. It will always, even while, for example, I am doing a satsanga and I'm trying to explain a particular verse, the same verse will be now, we'll look at it differently the next time. It will not be the exact same exposition. So even within us, why does it happen? In your satsanga, when you're sitting, why does the same verse now get explained differently? Because the paristhiti changes, the situation changes, environment changes, time is different. There are many different factors. So your understanding, your perception, your looking at it will also change. Which is why these texts, we should always repeatedly look at it. There is a Vakya that says, to understand the Upanishad, To understand the first line of the Upanishad, you must have understood the full Upanishad. To understand the first line of the Upanishad, you should have understood the full Upanishad. But how can I understand the full Upanishad without understanding the first line? So it's a loop. It means to say it is recursive. I go through it first time, then I go through it the second time, go through it the third time. When I go through it the 20th time, the way I understand the first verse will be very different than what I understood the first time I went through it. It'll open up, right? So this is Kathamrta Panamattaha. Then we move into the seventh verse. Tena smarantyatitaram priyam ishamartyam ये चावन् ये चान्वदस्सुतः सुहृद्गृहवित्तदाराः ये त्वब्जनाभवदीयपदारविन्द सौगन्ध्यलुब्धहृदयेषु कृतप्रसङ्गाः. Now he says, those who don't remember you, te na smaranti, ati taram, deeply, intensely, priyam, Ishamartyam, this Lord, the Supreme Lord who is there within us, Yecha Anvadaha. Instead, those who follow behind who? Suta, Suhrid, Griha, Vitta, Dara. Instead of putting your devotion and bhakti to Bhagavan, if you're going to put your bhakti to Suta, your children, Suhrid, your friends, Griha, your house, Vitta, wealth, Dara, spouse. If you're going to put it towards all this, then they will. So these are people who will naturally forget to put it on you, is what he is saying. Right? If my attention is on my child, my husband, my parents, my house, my wealth, and my attention and devotion is towards that continuously, where will I get time to put devotion towards Bhagavan? Right? Which is why we always find it easy to defer spiritual sadhana. We always find it is easy to defer it. And we can say that it's for a later point in time. Because everything that is right now in front of me, Suta, Suhrid, Griha, Vitta, Dhara, all of these that are there, children, friends, house, wealth, and spouse. So essentially my family, my friends, my wealth, my occupation, my profession, all of these things are right now in front of me. I feel these need my attention, energy. So we put it there. Now going to Kovil becomes a weekly affair. Doing a puja or a dhyana becomes a weekly thing. Or morning we probably takkani we come, light a lamp, do namaskaram and go. Because we don't think it is important to do these things when we are younger. And when we grow older, பண்றதுக்கு வேற எதுவும் இல்லை, so இது பண்ணுவோம். Just because we don't have anything else to do, we will do these things and we will get bored. Because we have not found ruchi. We have not established ruchi. We have not established this joy of devotion and doing these things. There are people I've seen who do Kainkaryam to Bhagavan with so much love. The same thing they'll repeat every day. They'll bring the flowers. Slowly they keep flower to each and every deity. They will clean up the place. They'll put the lamps. They'll clean the lamp. They will light the lamp. This they will do as their daily duty, but they will do it with so much love. It is not a chore. It is not something they have to do, but they'll do it with so much love. Why? Because they have come to pakkuam, they've come to a particular state of maturity within themselves, where they understand that this kind of living is what is Shashwatam, it is eternal. This is eternal because that kind of devotion, this, when you do this activity, the devotion that wells upon you is what you need to carry, and this is what will take you across. Your children, your husband, your wife, your mother, father. Pakwa, maybe so. Pakwa is probably from Sanskritam. Is there a, maybe so? But these are not going to give you that, they are not going to help you cross across. Understand this. How much ever you're devoted to your husband, unless you're Raghavendra, unless your husband is Raghavendra, he cannot give you moksha. How much ever devotion you have to your child, unless your child is Ramana Maharshi or Adi Shankara or Kapila Muni. Kapila Muni's mother was Devahuti. She learned, she got teachings from the son. Ramana, he gave moksha to the mother. Adi Shankara likewise. Unless your child is such an elated and elevated soul, you're not going to get that. Likewise with wealth, with friends. If you're going to be devoted and put your energies and all of that to your friends and um, your the wealth and the possession and the profession that you're in, what will you do when all of this is going away? It will go away, right? The people who are old enough know that these go away. And people who are young should look at the old ones to see that I'll be there some point in time. Which is why it's always important to have 3 generations in one household. Because everybody will know their past and their future. They should remember the past. When we go and scold your kids, we should know that how we were when we were kids. And to remind that the party will be there. Nee updi danada irundha. So this is important to see. This is all going to drop. I need to put all my effort. Yes. But I don't defer spiritual practice. I don't defer my sadhana. I don't defer my puja. I don't defer my contemplation time. I don't defer it. Because when everything else drops, your mind is also weak. Remember this. To do puja, to do bhajans, to do sankirtanam, to do dhyana, you need a good physical body and a mental body. Physical body and a mental body. You need both of these to be fit. So when everything is dropping off in your life as you grow old, your physical is also dropping, mental is also dropping. So how will you now do Bhagavad Dhyana suddenly? நிக்காது. மனசு ஒரு இடத்துல நிக்காது. The mind will not stay. You will not be able to sit down all the time. People will say when you're young, you have to run, do this, that, other. Ramakrishna வயசான காலத்துல பார்த்துக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு. When you're old, tell yourself, now sit, okay, you told, right? வயசான காலத்துல you will do. When you're older, sit down and see. How long can you sit and do Ramakrishna? How long? You'll not be able to. Because we have not trained. That ruchi, that interest has not been developed. Where will this pravaha come from? Inga ulla dry irukke. In Chennai, I remember when we were very young, we used to go to our cousins' places and all. Anga velila eppovume ellar veetliyum velila there used to be this hand pump. So we have to pump that water out. And sometimes it will become so dry that it will be very difficult. You have to pump like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then first thing, but what you have to do is you have to add first some water so that there is some generation of water. And then you have to keep pumping like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then slowly the water will come. Now, how dry and how deep and how wet we keep this place is our doing. If we have made this place so dry that we are only focused on running around, then this will become dry. Then when we are sitting in beautiful satsanga also, we will not feel. That bhava will not come. When we are standing in front of Bhagavan, and if you're looking at Anjaneya in Nanganallur, as an example, or you're looking at Parthasarathi, or you're looking at Ranganatha, that bhava should come. When you stand there, you should feel that this is that Bhagavan, this is that Antaryami, this is that glorious Narayana. Or you're going to, there's this in Batu caves in Malaysia, there's a huge Muruga. See that, you should feel that. Of course, that associate, each one has an association with different deities. But whichever of this, you should have that bhava that should flow. It will flow, that pravaha will happen only when எப்போ டக்குன்னு நடக்கும். When you go to a house and you do one pump, water comes out. Why? Because that place is kept wet. That place has been used. That place has been continuously nurtured. Like that, our pump should be wet. How will that happen? Through sadhana, through regular, continuous developing that interest, developing that wetness. Devotion is wet. That juice. Then we will not feel dry. We will not feel thirsty. Because where is this juice coming from? It's coming from inside. But right now we are so dry, somebody has to come pour water inside and then start pumping. கொஞ்சமாவது தண்ணி வராதா வெளியில அப்படின்னு. So this is important to understand. So he's saying in the 7th verse, now what is the letter here? Te. Bhaga, va was what we saw is vahati, to carry this devotion. And the 7th one is te, to turn the heart inwards. He's saying, move your heart and mind away from this thing that is going to fade away, and turn your heart towards Bhagavan. It doesn't mean you don't have to do. Not everybody, we're not saying everybody suddenly take up renunciation and sannyasa. No. Do what is required to be done. But don't let this aspect of you become dry. Turn your heart inwards. Turn your mind inwards. Identify times of the day to sit and do listening to Bhagavan Nama, enjoying in it. Not to do because, see, there are also, there's another problem. Because social structures are telling us, society is telling us, when you're old, you have to think about Bhagavan. And that is why I will have to do. Then, oh, can't I have to do Lalita Sahasranama? Then, oh, I have to listen to Vishnu, this thing. Don't do it as a duty, because you think by doing that, just listening to Vishnu Sahasranama or Lalita Sahasranama every day, I will suddenly get to Bhagavan, I will reach the lotus feet, Padaravindam. It will not happen like that. You have to develop that love and joy. That only you can do. But அது எப்படி பண்ண முடியும்? கேட்டு பண்ணி. I remember one friend, I'll narrate this and then we'll pause for today. I had a friend in a colleague at work when I was working in Chennai. And this guy had zero interest in Carnatic music. And he's an intellectual. He had very little interest. And then what happened is, and he would gently argue. This is the thing with the intellectuals, right? They like to argue. Always want to prove a point. So he would argue and say, what is there? And this is, it's such a complicated structure and all of that he will say. So what I did was, I used to, that one particular season, I told him, listen, in my view, Carnatic music is through Anubhava. You don't sit and learn Varavina Mridupani. By learning that, you will not get the joy of Carnatic music. I said it is through Anubhava. You have to experience it. So I took him to kacheris through the season. And wherever there's a kacheri, I will tell him, okay, today let's go. There is a December time. And he would come. Reluctantly, he would come. This happened 1 year. The next year, again, like that. Then later, I found the 3rd year, this guy got the ruchi of it. He started enjoying it, because he also started understanding, oh, this is this raga, and then he would this is this tala. this song was being composed by this, that. So he would do his research or whatever. He would start getting interested slowly. The third year, he went to 55 kacheris that season. 55 kacheris he went that season. I asked him, "Attana nadandhudada?" அப்படின்னு. There were so many kacheris he went. So this is how it is. This has to be developed by continuous engagement. Continuous engagement, whether you go to a place, see, if you're going to, for example, you're going to ISKCON and you're sitting in the Tama Sankirtanam, or you're going into some Katha Kalakshevam sitting there, or you're going to some other, wherever we go, we tend to associate ourselves with the organization. That's also a problem. You know, that organization like this like that like, don't worry about that. Are they singing Bhagavan name, Bhagavan Nama? Are they singing bhajans? Satya Sai bhajans happening here. Does it give you an opportunity to sit there and spend that time in satsanga? That is all that matters. So find opportunities to do that. Then when that ruchi comes, nobody has to tell you, oh, you have to chant Vishnu Sahasranama every day and then you will get Bhagavan, or then you will go to heaven, you will go to Swarga. All of that is very childish. When bhakti develops inside as this pravaha, as this joy, then you don't care. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to dissolve with Bhagavan. I want to be in a state where I continuously think about Bhagavan and I weep for him and I cry for him, because there is so much joy in it. There is so much joy in just thinking about Bhagavan and being in his presence and being in his dhyana. I don't want to merge. The great saints speak like that. So for us, in whatever state we are, it is important to develop this love and joy. So these two verses, what he's saying, sixth and the seventh, he's saying, sixth verse is carry this devotion. And seventh, he's saying, turn your heart inwards. Consciously remove attachment to Sutta, Suhrit, Vitta, Dhara, and Griha. Slowly remove attachment and redirect that attachment to Bhagavan. I have to be attached to something. எனக்கு அப்படியே இருக்க முடியாது. நான் attachment விட்டுட்டு எங்க இருக்கிறது? What do I do with the drop attachment? Redirect it to Bhagavan. That is what he's saying. And this we have to make a resolution, sankalpa, and make it happen for ourselves. Okay. So we'll pause with this. Om kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami सदाशिवायति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकेति समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथायति समर्पयामि हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय गुरुदेवा।